All right, brokers, please stop pulling 1,000 contacts from CoStar, hoping something sticks. Let me show you how I'm doing it differently and why it's working better. This is built by Gladia, where I'm documenting my real journey in industrial real estate. Today, I'm giving you 3 tips for dialing quality over quantity, coming from my experience as a wholesaler, acquisitions, and now a broker. First point, build your own list with deeper research. And yes, it's going to be a lot more time consuming, a lot more work up front, especially if you're just you. If you have a VA or someone on your team that can help, then great. This is a task that you can pass off to them. But it's one of the most important tasks in prospecting. And believe me, I used to filter lists or buy filtered lists, third parties, get 500 names, just map out the fields and then plug it into a dialer and voila, without even looking at who's on there. And then you start cold calling the list and realize the people that maybe were interested were located in Timbuktu or in a remote area, or maybe the type of building isn't even anything your buyers are buying, and you just wasted time and money. Now, I build a list by hand, still using software, Reonomy, I use Google Earth, I use CoStar, now that I have access to CoStar, but I dive deeper. And this is what I've heard. If you want to be a successful broker, I want to know who actually owns it. If I'm looking at comps, who bought it? What else do they own? And if there's signs, they might tell, like, when did they buy it? How long have they owned it? Who are the tenants? What year was it built? When I started wholesaling and acquisitions, this was seen as a waste of time. Is don't gather all this information first. We should be hitting the phones, getting as many dials in. Like, don't waste your time reading into like what the property entails. And so I think this is where I can see if you're using that approach in acquisitions or wholesaling, the metrics make sense with that, especially if you're passing it off to a team of dialers. But if you do it right, you can still plug in a list to a dialer, but you need to take the time to actually like research every property. I know brokers that will compile a list of 500 properties in their market, perhaps in the markets that they work in, but it took them a week or so to get all these properties, enter in all the information, the notes. See, for me, I have found I don't like being caught off guard on like who's going to pick up, because even if I had information about the property, when they pick up and even on the dialer pops up the address, I still need to gather some insights so that I can lead with value. So if I'm calling them and looking at the profile and I already have all the information I need, I can approach the conversation or the intro a little bit more professionally and come off like I know what I'm talking about because I've researched their property and what they own. If this is hitting for you, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and drop a comment. And if you want to see how I actually contact commercial LLC owners, check out this video I did a few weeks ago, Secret to Finding LLC Real Estate Owners, and I walk you through how I do that. This takes me to point number 2. Be a sharpshooter, not a scattergun. When you build your own list, you go into calls already knowing something about them. It makes you sound like a pro, not some random person reading off a screen or reading off a script. It just changes the whole energy and confidence. Because although I'm not saying this isn't going to stop you from being told off, there's still going to be those owners that say you don't know what you're talking about, get a real job. But if you can come off with respect, knowing that you invested that time, I think that goes a long way in at least keeping the conversation going. That's the outcome may not be that they want to sell, and that's okay. The goal isn't that. The goal is just to confirm you have the right contact and that you just introduce yourself. And then by time you showcase your value by doing evaluations or providing some information maybe the owner didn't know, whatever it is that they need help with. The quality over quantity, the sharpshooter is going to make you stand out because not enough brokers do this. And leading with intentionality, this approach means fewer calls. So on average, I think if you do this approach, yes, you're calling them one at a time, not putting them in a dialer, which is way different than what you think of as a wholesaler. And interestingly enough, one of the concepts I learned in wholesaling was to hit these more niche lists, not just go for bulk dialing, water shutoff list, code violations. We're talking like financial hardship. So maybe their loan is due or they're going through bankruptcy, a divorce. You can pull those lists. Now, I don't know how it works with commercial. If you know how to find this information, definitely let me know what happens with these third-party data lists. They'll actually get that information. They'll compile it into their database and then they sell that list. So when you filter by it, you put in an order, And you're basically paying them to get that information when you can get it yourself, but it takes a little bit more effort. You need a process, system, maybe a team to go into the county site. And sometimes it's not as easy as that. They don't offer just an Excel sheet with all this information. You have to turn it from a PDF to an Excel, or you have to actually show up to a courthouse. Let's say we're talking probates. So if you can get that data first, clean it up, and start hitting the phones one by one and confirming who the right contact is, you're ahead of the game. And so in some aspects, that's what you're doing as well, is I am canvassing the area using Google Earth, using Reonomy. I start off with a filter of like, okay, let me look at owners who haven't sold within the last 10 years. I want to target the smaller investors, the smaller owners. Maybe they're out of state. I just took my list from 1,000 to say 200 to then to 100 to then maybe to 50. And out of those 50, I'm looking through, I'm literally like scoping through and looking on Google Earth. Okay, is this proper for iOS, for Flex, for multi-tenant? And then I filter off of that. And then I'm start compiling my list. And then I use CoStar to, take a look at the property information. I was actually going through a lease and comp for a property I'm offering a valuation for. And by that, I was able to see who bought this building. Let me add that to the list to contact them. And so it's a great exercise to just get to know what's going on in your market that you're working in and contact these people directly. Stop chasing quantity for ego. Let's stop focusing on the number of dials. Let's focus on the number of opportunities and leads and conversations, as well as talk time. That's also not talked about enough. One of the main metrics they track is how many contacts and the talk time. The talk time at the minimum is 1 hour. The goal is to hit 1 hour of talk time every day. So be intentional, go deeper, and watch your pipeline fill up with quality. Till next time.